morning, students. I hope everybody was fine. Okay. So far, we have discussed about what is organic farming, what are its principles, its prospects, and coming to next class about its biodiversity, how it will be useful in organic farming to increase the organic farming. And in the third lecture, I have seen about the prerequisites to form the organic farming. And the fourth lecture, we have seen about organic carbon and how it will be useful in organic farming. And today we are going to see about what were the sources of organic manures, in which form we can get this, and what were they. Okay, let's move to the topic. I hope every student is know about this organic manures, as you have been already from the first year itself. You have studying this agriculture course, and you had a term organic manures. What was the organic manure? Okay, manures are plant and animal waste that are used as sources of plant nutrients. We can call it as manures, whatever the material that comes from plant and animal waste that useful in the sources of plant nutrients. These release nutrients after their decomposition. Okay, the art of collecting these waste from animal, human and vegetable sources for improving crop productivity is, we can say it as manures. Okay, these manures are organic materials derived from animal, human and plant residues, which contain plant nutrients in complex organic forms. In which form? It will be containing in complex organic forms. Okay, in short, we can say it as organic manures are natural products used by farmers to provide food material or food in the form of plant nutrients for the crop plants. Or we can also say it as materials which are organic in origin, bulky and concentrated in nature, and capable of supplying plant nutrients and improving soil physical environment, having no definite composition. Here the term, you can see that is no definite composition, because each and every waste of plant or animal or any other waste that derived from the organic will not be having the same composition. That's why they have given here there will be no definite composition. Okay, this is about manures, and you have the term organic manures, which the products whichever come from plants, animals or other waste, other plant sources or debris of plants, that is called as manures. Okay, maybe it will be available in concentrated or in bulky nature. Manures with low nutrient content per unit quantity have longer residual effects, besides improving soil physical properties compared to fertilizer. Okay, these manures will be having a longer residual effect. We can say it as advantage or benefit of organic manures. Okay, compared to fertilizer, these manures will have a very longer residual effect on plants. The major sources of manures, we can see it in cattle shed or in organic waste dung, urine and slurry from biogas plants. Nor you can also say it will be provided in human habitation waste, night soil, it means human waste, human urine, town refuse, sewage sludge and sewage. Okay, not only that, within poultry, droppings of sheep and goat, slaughterhouse waste, bone meal, meat meal, blood meal, horn and hoof meals, these all the contains this organic, we can say it as organic manures. Okay, not only that, byproducts of agro industrial waste, stubbles and other related material, whatever like water hyacinth, weeds and tank silt, green manure crops and green leaf manuring crops, everything which I have said now will contain these organic manures, will be considered as organic manures. We can also say it as organic sources. Okay, let's see what were the advantages of organic manures. It supplies primary, secondary and micronutrients to plants, improve physical condition of soil, control plant parasitic nematodes and fungi. It also acts as carbon fertilizers. It also provides food for soil organisms, provide buffering action in soil reaction. Not only this, it will cause many benefits for the plant growth. It will sustain the land fertility for longer period of time. It will be slowly deposited in the soil and it will sustain for a longer period of time. Okay, so these were the advantages of organic manures. It improves the physical condition of soil. If the physical condition of soil has been changed or texture has been improved, definitely there will be benefits for crop growth. Okay, let's see some classification of organic manures. There were two different types of manures. One is bulky organic manure and the other is concentrated organic manure. What is meant by bulky organic manure? Bulky organic manures are nothing but it should be applied in a large huge quantity, but it contains very less amount of nutrients. It may be applied in huge quantity, but it contains less amount of nutrient. That is nothing but bulky organic manures. And if you see about concentrated organic manures will be applied in less quantity. Even though we have applied in less quantity, it contains more number of nutrients. That is about concentrated organic manures. In bulky organic manures, it mainly derived from animal, plant and other organic waste and green plant tissues. Okay, for suppose well decomposed animal, plant and other organic residues. It means waste of animal or plants and other organic residues. And it also contains green plant tissues under decomposed. Compost is nothing but the dry matter. Okay, we should not at any time we should not apply the fresh matter to the biomass to the land. Okay, because it will provide heat and it will be affect the crop growth, so that we have to compost that and we have to made into the powdery form. It means dry matter should be applied. Suppose if we see that plant and animal organic waste, examples will be farmyard manure or compost. Compost will be of different types. Farm compost will be there, town refuges also will be turned into compost and applied in the field. If they coming to green plant tissues, here there will be two types of manures that we can apply in the green plant tissue. One is green manures, one is green leaf manures also. Okay, in green manures, for example, Dencha glycidia or included as green manures, and we can propagate that. After that, there are leaves or plants will be planted at the burn sites, and that leaves will be incorporated into the soil and applied as manures. That is called as green leaf manure or green manures. Okay, coming to concentrated organic manures, like oil cakes, blood meal or meat meal, other and some other. Okay, if oil cakes, some non-edible to cattle, moha, neem oil cakes or edible cattle. It means cattle also can eat that, like mustard oil cake, groundnut oil cake will be considered as edible to cattle. Okay, these were the concentrated organic manures and bulky organic manures. This is about classification of organic manures. We have also seen that sources of organic manures. In the introduction part, I have said that there were different types of sources of cattle shed, human habitation, poultry, slaughterhouse, byproducts of agro-industrial waste, crop waste, water hyacinth and green manure crops and green leaf manuring crops. Okay, here a detailed description has been given. If suppose if that are agricultural residues, it means like it depends. If it was related to the sources related to agriculture, there will be like crop residues. It means paddy straw, sugarcane trash or any of the weeds. Okay, that will be turned into compost or dry matter will be applied as the manures. Okay, if suppose it moves to animal husbandry, the residues of in dairy or goat or sheep dairy is nothing but cows or buffaloes, whatever that may be present in dairy, the waste of that will be collected and applied as manures. Same as like goat and sheep, poultry and piggery. Okay, if you see related to agri industries, some products like sugar industrial products like press mud, coir industry, it means coir pith, fruits or vegetable processing industry, the pulp of that will be used. Okay, if that are belong to municipal activities, and there will be household waste, municipal solid waste, or market waste, or vegetable or fruit or flower waste. Okay, these all will be considered as sources of organic manures. Okay, as next moving to FIM, this is bulky organic manure we can say. Okay, in this FIM, what is meant by FIM, from where we can get this? Okay, this farmyard manure, it refers to as farmyard manure. It is the refuse from farm animals, mainly sheep, cattle and poultry. This is one of the oldest manure known and is highly valued for its many of the beneficial properties that are said to be produced when this manure is added to the soil. It not only adds the constituents to the soil but also adds organic matter to the soil. Okay, the main reason of applying this manure, it improves the texture of the soil and it will sustain the moisture content of the soil and preserve like that only. Not only that, it is the mixture of dung and urine of farm animals, along with it litter and leftover material from roughages of fodder fed to the cattle. Okay, if suppose on an average well decomposed format manure contains 0.5% of nitrogen and 0.2% of phosphorus and 0.5% of potassium. Again I am repeating, it contains nutrients of about 0.5% of nitrogen, 0.2% of phosphorus and 0.5% of potassium. Okay, the present method of preparing farmyard manure by the farmers is defective, as urine which is wasted contains 1% of nitrogen, okay, 1.3% of potassium. We are wasting so much amount of urine of a dairy or any of the sheep or goats or piggery, that urine contains, I have said that 1.35% of potassium and 1% of nitrogen. Nitrogen present in urine is mostly in the form of urea, which is subjected to volatilization losses. Okay, to reduce this we have to take some precautions, and we have to say that even during storage nutrients are lost due to leaching and volatilization. Okay, however it is practically impossible to avoid losses altogether, but we can reduce by following improved method of preparation of farmyard manure. For suppose by baking trenches we can prepare this FIM. Suppose you can take, note these points because I haven't mentioned here, you can note the point. Suppose you are making this FIM in a trench, you need size of about 6 meter to 7.5 meter length. Repeating, it needs, a trench needs 6 meter to 7.5 meter length and 1.5 meter to 2 meters width and 1.1 meter deep or dug. Okay, you have to take this much measurements. Repeating again, trench will be of size about 6 meter to 7.5 meter length, 1.5 to 2 meter width and 1 meter deep. Okay, all available. Now what we have to do, we have to take all the available litter and refuse is mixed with soil. We have to mix this litter and refuse, it means waste, with the soil and spread in the shed so as to absorb urine. The next morning, when after spreading this urine soaked refuse all along with the dung is collected and placed in the trench. Okay, listen carefully. Here we are going to spread this the soil in the trench, and we are going to take that absorbed urine dung and collected and placed in the trench. Okay, a selection of trench from one end should be taken up for filling with daily collection. At a time we cannot get all the matter, right? Waste or refuse. Day by day we will get little amount of waste. That waste will be collected daily and it's going to be filled in the trench. When the selection is when the section of trench is filled up to height of 45 centimeters to 60 centimeters above the ground level, the top of the heap is made into dome and plastered with cow dung or earth slurry. Okay, this process is continued, and when trench is completely filled, second trench is prepared. Okay, understood now? Okay. Then the menus becomes ready for use in about 4 to 5 months after plastering. If urine is not collected in the bedding, it can be collected along with the washings of the cattle shed in a cemented pit, from which it is later added to the farmyard manure pit. After that, chemical preservatives can also be used to reduce losses and enrich farmyard manure. The commonly used chemicals are gypsum and superphosphate. The commonly used materials in FIM are gypsum and superphosphate. Remember this point. We can use some chemicals like gypsum and superphosphate to reduce the volatilization losses. Gypsum is spread in the cattle shed, which absorbs urine and prevents as I said before, volatilization loss of urea present in the urine, and also adds calcium and sulfur to it. Okay, superphosphate also acts similarly in reducing losses and also increases phosphorus content. Okay, next to that, partially rotten farmyard manure has to be applied 3 to 4 weeks before sowing, while well rotten manure can be applied immediately before sowing. See this point, partially rotten farmyard manure, it means half completed farmyard manure. If it has been decomposed, it can be applied within 3 to 4 weeks before sowing, while well rotten, it means completely decomposed manure can be applied immediately before sowing. Okay, generally 10 to 20 tonners per hectare is applied, but more than 20 tonners is applied to fodder grasses and vegetables. Okay, if other crops expect we can give amount of 20 tonners per hectare if only for fodder grasses and vegetables. Other than this, we can give only 10 to 20 tonners per hectare. In such cases, farmyard manure should be applied at least 15 days in advance to avoid immobilization of nitrogen. There will be different changes after applying this FIM, so that we are going to apply this within 15 days prior to the sowing. Okay, so that the immobilization of nitrogen will be completed, and the existing practice of leaving manure in small heaps scattered in the field for a very long period leads to loss of nutrients. Okay, these losses can be reduced by spreading the manure and incorporating by plowing immediately after application. So that we have to take some prescribed measures for controlling the volatilization losses of nutrients from the bed or from the decomposed material. Okay, vegetable crops like potato, tomato, sweet potato, carrot, radish, onion, etc. Will be respond to farmyard manure. The other responsive crops like sugarcane, rice, napier grass, orchard crops like oranges, banana, mango, and plantation crops like coconut also will give good results if we apply this FIM. The entire amount of nutrients present in FIM is not available immediately, but about 30% of nitrogen and 60 to 70% of phosphorus and 70% of potassium are available to the first crop. Okay, again I am repeating this point that the entire amount will not be dissolved or will be available to the plants immediately after application, but only 30% of nitrogen and 60 to 70% of phosphorus and 70% of potassium will be available for the first crop itself. Okay, this is about FIM, and the composition of this, okay, will be affected by many factors. First one is source of manure, feed of the animals, age of the animal, condition of the animal, manner of storage and handling, and litter use, etc. Okay, here it will be influenced. Okay, this may be get good quality or bad quality, depend upon these conditions. Okay, whether if we give the source of manure, it means source of manure will be depends upon only the type of animal, the age of animal, the feed which we are giving to animal. If we give the good quality of food to feed to this livestock or poultry or this it means animals, that will take that nutrients and it will give it back in the form by giving more number of nutrients in its refuges. Okay, so that the manure will be strong and we can give it in the apply in the field so that it will increase the nutrients in the soil. Okay, next, condition of the animals. How was the condition? Whether it was weak or strong, it will be able to give good amount of nutrients or not. How the animal was. We have to consider all these point if we want to get a good amount of nutrients from the refuges. Next, moving to green manures or green leaf manures also or belong to green manures. Okay, let's see what is meant by green manuring. Okay, green manuring is the practice of growing a short duration succulent and leafy legume crop and plowing the plants in the same field before they form seeds. Okay, the difference between I will in simple I will say that green manuring will be the plants which were going to be grow in and around the farm, and the plants will be incorporated in the field itself while plowing and doing cultural operations at the initial level. Okay, but in green leaf manuring you are going to collect the waste of plants, it means like leaves, the debris which fallen off, and that will going to be collected from one place to another places, from different places, that all leaves will be collected and applied in the field as the manure. That is known as green leaf manuring. Here it refers to adding the loppings from legume plants or trees to the field and then incorporating them into the soil by plowing. This is about green manures and green leaf manures. Okay, let's see what were the characteristics of green manures. It should have rapid growth and shorter duration so that it can be fitted in a crop rotation. Okay, along with the crop rotation we can save these green manures and we can rotate in the field and we can incorporate in the field itself if it was short duration. Okay, we have to select only short duration, it will be more preferable. Okay, it should yield abundant biomass and should be succulent to have rapid decomposition. It should give more amount of biomass, it means waste should be more, the fresh matter should be more, and so that it gives rapid decomposition in the soil and helps to decompose fastly. It should have the ability to grow on poor soils also. Okay, even though, because as these are manures, we cannot cultivate as like commercial production crops. Okay, so that it, even though it tolerates and grown in poor soils, that types of crops should be selected for green manures. Let's see benefits of green manures or green leaf manures. It adds organic matter into the soil, and also it adds nutrient like macro, secondary and micronutrients. It improves physical condition of soil. It also acts as soil amendment to reclamation of problematic soils. It acts as a cover or catch crop to prevent soil erosion, conserve moisture, prevent nutrient leaching. It also fixes the atmospheric and by roots and improves nitrogen status of the soil. Okay, this was about the benefits of green leaf manures. In simple, it adds organic matter, and not only that, it provides macro and micronutrients to the soil and increase the nutrient potential in the soil. It improves physical condition of the soil. It acts as soil amendment to reclaim the problematic soils, as it can also use it as catch crop or cover crop. It prevents soil erosion so that the topmost soil will be present in the land itself and increase the soil fertility. As these are leguminous crops, it fixes atmospheric nitrogen by the roots and improves the nitrogen status of the soil. Let's see some nutrient content of important green manures. Sorry, the mistake. Green manures and green leaf manures. Okay. Here some green manures are Sesbania eculate. It contains 3.3% of nitrogen, 0.7% of phosphorus and 1.3% of potassium. If we see about Protalaria gentium, it contains about 2.6% of nitrogen and 0.6% of phosphorus and 2.0% of potassium. Next one is Aspenia speciosa. It contains 2.7% of nitrogen, 0.5% of phosphorus and 2.2% of potassium. Tephrosia purpurea. It contains 2.4% of nitrogen, 0.3% of phosphorus and 0.8% of potassium. Okay. And next, Fasciolus tribulus. It contains 2.1% of nitrogen and 0.5% of phosphorus. This is about nutrient contents of some of the green manure crops. And next, moving to nutrient content of important green leaf manures. Here it contains Pongamia glabra, some of the crops. Okay, Pongamia glabra, it contains 3.2% of nitrogen and 0.3% of phosphorus and 1.3% of potassium. Next, Glycidia maculata. It contains 2.9% of nitrogen, 0.5% of phosphorus and 2.8% of potassium. Azadirachta indica. It contains 28% of nitrogen, 0.3% of phosphorus and 0.4% of potassium. And some other are Azadirachta indica. It contains 2.8% of nitrogen, 0.3% of phosphorus and 0.4% of potassium. Calotropis giganteum. Okay, it contains about 2.1% of nitrogen, 0.7% of phosphorus and 3.6% of potassium. Okay, this was about green leaf manures and green manuring. We have seen about the characteristics and advantages of this, what were the benefits and nutrient content of green manures and green leaf manures. Next, moving to compost. Compost is nothing but well decomposed or rotten plant and animal residue. It will be used in applying in the field so that it increases the nutrient content of the soil as like FIM. Okay, composting means rotting of plant and animal remains before applying in the field. Okay, the essential requirements of composting are air, moisture, optimum temperature and small quantity of nitrogen. Okay, in this it is an activity of microorganism. Without activity of microorganisms we cannot prepare the compost. Okay, compost making is the process of decomposing organic waste in a pit. Otherwise we can say it as process of decomposing organic waste in a pit. Okay, this is about compost. And here we can see that as in this composting it transforms raw organic residues into humus like material through the activity of soil microorganisms. In this compost preparation, microorganisms will be having a main role in converting into the compost. Okay, if we see that mature compost stores well and is biologically stable, it will be free of unpleasant odors and easier to handle and less bulky than raw organic waste. So we have to decompose it into up to its extent. Okay, we can use this compost in agronomic and horticultural operations, such as it may compost can be used as soil amendment and seed starter, mulch container, mix ingredient or natural fertilizer depending on its characteristics. Okay, in different forms we can use this compost in horticultural and agronomical activities. And in composting can also reduce or eliminate weed seeds and plant pathogens organic residues. And it also provide many benefits as it has act as soil amendment and a source of organic manure by improving soil biological, chemical and physical characteristics. If we add this compost, it will be act as soil biological, chemical and physical improvement of the soil. Okay, it increases microbial activity. Not only microbial activity, it also suppresses the plant disease and increase the soil fertility. It acts as the cation exchange capacity increase, and it improves soil structure in clay soils. It improves water retention in sandy soils and reduces bioavailability of heavy metals. Okay, and if we see that uh, the site for compost making is selected should be at high level, and water should not given during monsoon season. Okay, the pit should be of 3 meter depth and 6 to 8 inches width, and the length may be of any convenient size. There was no certain limitation to this making size for compost preparation. We can made on our availability and resources available with us. This process will be as follows: prepare 6 layers of organic waste like plant residues, sweepings from the cattle shed, waste fodder, dried plant stalks, and up to now we have seen about FIM, green manuring, and composting. Now we are going to see about poultry manure. This poultry manure, the excrete of birds ferment very quickly. Okay, poultry manure is nothing but waste of birds. Okay, it left exposed. If the manure has been left exposed after it has been released outside, there will be 50% of its nitrogen is lost within 30 days. Okay, if we keep the waste like that only without storing it properly, then we can see 50% of the nitrogen loss within 30 days. Poultry manure contains higher nitrogen and phosphorus compared to other bulky organic manures. Okay, the average nutrient content is about 3.03% of nitrogen and 2.63% of phosphorus and 1.4% of potassium. Next, sheep and goat manure. The waste of sheep and goats are nothing but sheep and goat manures. It has higher nutrients than farmyard manure and compost. It contains, on an average, the manure contains 3% of nitrogen and 1% of phosphorus and 2% of K2O. It is applied in the field in two ways. Okay, in the first method, the sweepings of sheep or goat sheds are placed in pits for decomposition, and it is applied later to the field. Okay, the nutrients present in the urine are wasted in this method. Okay, in the first method, we are going to store it at one place in a pit. Okay, in this process there will be more loss of nutrients. Okay, in the second method, the sheep penning, wherein sheep and goats are kept overnight in the field, and urine and fecal matter added to the soil is incorporated to shallow depth by working blade, harrow or cultivator or cultivator. Okay, in this we are going to leave the sheep and the goats in the field itself. There it will release the waste material. After that we are going to plow with the help of blade, harrow or cultivator. Okay, this is about the second method. There will be no wastage as it releases the waste material there. Within a short period of time we are going to incorporate in the soil. Next, moving to biogas slurry. Biogas slurry is a good source organic manure. These were some of the different methods of applying biodigester slurry as manure. Of them, air-dried biogas slurry can be applied by spreading on the agricultural land at last. It means at least 1 week before sowing the seeds or transplanting the seedlings. Where we are going to apply this 1 week before sowing the seeds or transplanting the seedlings. In the second, the liquid slurry can be mixed directly with the running water in irrigation canal, which will enable spreading of the slurry uniformly in the cropped area or in the cultivation land. Okay, in the second method, the liquid slurry is going to be mixed directly with the running water in irrigation, which will enable spreading of slurry uniformly in the cropped area. Okay, Bioglass slurry can also be coated on the seeds prior to sowing. This acts as insecticide and prevents seeds or plants from insect attack. This helps in early germination and healthy growth of seedlings. Here the first one applied in the form before sowing only, we are going to apply in the field before transplanting the seedlings, and the second we are going to apply along with the irrigation, and third one we are going to apply as coated on the seeds prior to sowing, so that it will act as insecticide. It can also be applied as semi-solid slurry can be transported easily, as it was in the consistency of fresh dung and used for top dressing of crops like sugarcane and potato. Okay, in crops like sugarcane and potato, we are going to use semi-solid slurry for top dressing. Okay, in fish culture, it will act as a supplementary feed. On an average, we can see about 15 to 25 liter of wet slurry can be applied per day in a 1200 square kilometer pond. Okay, slurry mixed with oil cake or rice bran in the 2:1 ratio increase the fish production remarkably. Okay, even for feed fish culture, for increasing the yield of that, we are going to use this bioglass slurry. Okay, in general organic manures about 35 or 10 tons per hectare in the form of FIM or compost or biodigester slurry is recommended to be applied once in 3 years. Okay, once in 3 years we are going to apply this biogas slurry. Okay, and not only that, the digester slurry, if mixed with azospirillum and some other phosphate soluble microorganisms, mycorrhizae, at the rate of 200 ml each per acre, ensures increase of yields minimum up to 30% over slurry alone. If we see the nutrient content of biogas slurry and FIM, biogas slurry contains 1.43% of N and 1.21% of phosphorus and 1.01% of potassium. If we see the nutrient content of FIM, here we are going to see that 0.94% of nitrogen, 0.56% of phosphorus and 0.72% of potassium. And now we are going to see about vermicompost. Vermicompost is nothing but we are going to compose the process along with the earthworms. Okay, the process of turning this compost is called vermicomposting. Here the organic debris into worm castings. Okay, the organic material along with earthworms we are going to cultivate. Here the earthworms is going to take the feed and releases the refuse as the worm castings that we are going to collect and apply in the field, which gives very good results in the and helpful in the crop growth. The worm castings are very important to the fertility of the soil. The casting contain high amount of nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, calcium and magnesium. Not only that, it contains 5 times the available nitrogen, 7 times the available potash and 1.5 times more calcium than found in good topsoil. Okay, here we are going to see more number of available nitrogen, phosphorus and potash in whose forms in the good topsoil. Okay, materials for preparation of vermicompost: any types of biodegradable waste like crop residues, weed biomass, vegetable waste, leaf litter, hotel refuse, waste from agro industries, biodegradable portion of urban and rural waste will be the materials for preparing this vermicompost. They will be act as sources for preparing vermicompost. Here we can see there will be different types of phases in preparing vermicompost. Of them, here the first one is about collection. Okay, we are going to collect the compost material or sources related to the vermicompost preparation. In this collection also we have to collect good quality of waste. Okay, we should not take all the materials whichever we got in the forms. We have to select accordingly whichever required. Now we have moving to second phase, pre-digestion of organic waste. In this phase 2, it requires about 20 days by heaping the material along with cattle dung slurry. We are going to keep this organic waste along with the cattle dung slurry. This process partially digests the material and fit for earthworm consumption. Okay, here it will digest partially and it will help the earthworm to consume. Okay, here the cattle dung and biogas slurry may be used after drying. Wet dung should not be used for vermicompost production. We are not going to use wet dung. We are going to use only it means completely dried dung for preparing this vermicompost production. Next phase is phase 3, that is preparation of earthworm bed. A concrete base is required to put the waste for vermicompost preparation. We have to create a concrete base, as it cannot be kept on the normal bed. It means normal base land. We have to create the concrete base to require to create the or to put the waste for vermicompost preparation. Loose soil will allow the worms to go into the soil, and also while watering, all the dissolved nutrients go into the soil along with the water. What was the reason to create this concrete base under the vermicompost preparation is, if we kept like that only on the base land without any concrete or anything, whenever we water the compost bed, definitely there will be infiltration. If you are going to give water, definitely it will move downwards and it makes all the nutrients goes down only. It will not be provided in that compost bed. So that we have to create a concrete base. Not only that, we are going to keep earthworms in the compost bed. Okay, if we keep like that only, the earthworms are going to be wandered here and there. If we keep the concrete bed, it will move up and down of the bed, but it won't move from the correct place where we have created that concrete. Okay, this was the reason why we have to prepare the concrete bed for the preparation of vermicompost. Okay, next is phase 4, collection of earthworm after vermicompost collection. Yes, we have completed the concrete bed and we have left all the materials is there, and we have spread it and we have left earthworms on that. After completion of preparing the completion of vermicompost, if we see that it has been prepared, what we have to do, we have to collect the earthworms from the bed. Okay, sieving the composted material to separate fully composted material. The partially composted material will be again put into the vermicompost bed. In the first step, we have to remove the earthworms along with the sieving material. In the sieving material, the completely prepared vermicompost will be separated to the sieves. We can separate that, and the partially material, it means partially composted material, will be kept like that only by releasing earthworms again into that. After some days, again we can take the material and we can sieve that, we can separate the fully completed vermicompost. And the last phase is storing the vermicompost in proper place to maintain moisture and allow the beneficial microorganisms to grow in that bed. Okay, in that vermicompost we have to store it properly. If we are not going to store it properly, definitely the nutrients or the vermicompost is going to be get spoiled. Okay, this is about phase of vermicomposting. What worms need. Next one, in this vermicompost preparation, we have to mainly focus on the earthworms, because without earthworms you cannot get the compost properly. Okay, the complete process will depend on the earthworms only. Here, which types of earthworms is going to be used is, for vermicompost production, the surface dwelling earthworms alone should be used. The earthworm which lives below the soil is not suitable for vermicompost production. The African earthworm, Enterillus engineal, redworms, Aesina foetida, and composting worm, Pheronix excavators are promising worms used for vermicompost production. These three worms are only mostly preferred for preparing the vermicompost. We want to select only surface earthworm, surface feeder earthworm, because it should move only upwards, it should not go into the downwards, and if we go like that, we cannot prepare the vermicompost. The most 5 essential things for the worms, the compost worms needs for 5 basic things. In hospitable living environment, usually called bedding, a food source, adequate moisture, adequate aeration, protection from temperature extremes. In short, we can say these earthworms will breathe through their skin. Okay, so that what we have to do, we have to give a good aeration for that and adequate moisture. Earthworms need more amount of moisture. If there is a dry atmosphere in the vermicompost bag, definitely the earthworms will get died. After that, we cannot get the vermicompost in a fine quantity and fine quality also. So that we have to focus on the earthworms and the aeration we have to give for that, and adequate moisture we have to maintain in the pit. Okay, we have to also give good source, protein rich sources we have to give, legume crops like that. If we give that, it will get digestible easily. Okay, these are the 5 essential things that worms needs. We have to take care about the worm essentials. Next, moving to vermicompost production methodology. Here there will be a few steps of this. Okay, here we are going to see that selection of suitable earthworm. As I said, that selection only gives good result for fine quality of vermicompost. We have to select good earthworms. Okay, next, selection of site for vermicompost production. Vermicompost can be produced in any place with shade, high humidity and cool. Okay, as I said, these need very cool temperature. Okay, and it needs adequate moisture, so that we have to select the shady place with high humidity and cool temperature. Okay, abundant cattle shed or poultry shed or unused buildings can be used. You can use cattle shed or poultry shed. If it is to be produced in open area, shady place is selected. A thatched roof may be provided to protect the process from direct sunlight and rain. The waste heaped for vermicompost production should be covered with most moist gunny bags. Okay, the main thing what we are going to do is, after selecting the site, we are going to keep the vermicompost bed covered with the gunny bags by moistening it with water. And the third step is about containers for vermicompost production. We can use many different types of compost containers. A cement tub or any plastic sheet. Nowadays, ready-made vermicompost bags were coming. We can use that one also for preparing vermicompost. Okay, if it was a cement tub, it may be constructed to a height of 2.5 feet and a breadth of 3 feet. Okay, the length may be fixed at any level depending upon the size of the room. The bottom of the tub is made to slope-like structure to drain the excess water from vermicompost unit. A small sump is necessary to collect the drain water. Okay, along when we have selected the cement tub, after taking certain measures of that to build that one, we have to build that by keeping a small slope, okay, small slant-like slope. Beside that, we have to take some sump also to collect the drain water. In another option, over the hand floor, hollow blocks or bricks may be arranged in compartment to a height of 1 feet, breadth of 3 feet and length to desired level to have a quick harvest. In this method, moisture assessment will be very easy. No excess water will be drained. Vermicompost can also be prepared in wooden boxes, plastic buckets or in any containers with a drain hole at the bottom. According to our convenience and availability, we can prepare our own vermicompost beds. Okay, next, moving to vermiculture bed, how it should be there. Vermiculture bed or worm bed can be prepared by placing after sawdust or husk or coir waste or sugarcane trash in the bottom of tub or container. A layer of sand 3 cm should be spread over the culture bed, followed by a layer of garden soil 3 cm. All layers must be moistened with water. In the vermiculture bed, we are going to spread first, and the first layer we are going to take sawdust or husk or coir waste or sugarcane trash will be selected as the first layer. Okay, after that we are going to spread 3 centimeters of sand. After that we are going to spread 3 centimeters of garden soil. All layers must be moistened with water. Okay, this was about vermiculture bed. Next, moving to worm food. Compost worms are big eaters. Okay, these worms will eat huge amount of food. Under ideal conditions, they are able to consume in excess of their body weight each day. Okay, although the general rule of thumb is one and half of their body weight per day, they will eat almost anything organic, that is of plant or animal origin, but they definitely prefer some foods to others. Manures are the most commonly used worm feedstock. Okay, we are going to feed the worms with mostly with manures, with dairy and beef manures generally considered the best natural food for Avicenna foetida, with the possible exception of rabbit manure. The former being more often available large quantities is the feed most often used. Whichever we get, we are going to use that as worm weeds. Next, moving to selection for vermicompost production. Cattle dung, except pig, poultry and goat, farm waste, crop residues, vegetable market waste, flower market waste and agro-industrial waste, fruit market waste and all other biodegradable waste are suitable for vermicompost production. Okay, all the organic manures, organic sources till now which we have discussed will be used as material for vermicompost production. The cattle dung should be dried in open sunlight before used for vermicompost production. All other waste should be pre-digested with cow dung for 20 days before put into wimble for composting. Moving to next, putting the waste in the container. The pre-digested waste material should be mud with 30% cattle dung, either by weight or volume. Okay, the mixed waste is placed in the tub or container up to its brim. The moisture level should be maintained 60% over this material. The selected earthworm is placed uniformly. Okay, here we are going to here it needs about the water moisture level should be maintained at 60% in the container. Over this material, the selected earthworm is placed uniformly for 1 meter length and 1 meter breadth and 0.5 meter height. It needs about 1 kg of worm. It means it contains about 1000 number of earthworms is required. There is no necessary that earthworm should be put inside the waste. Even by itself it will move into the soil, into the compost material, and it will prepare vermicompost. Next, moving to watering the vermi bed. Daily watering is not required for vermi bed, but 60% of moisture should be maintained throughout the period. If necessary arises, water should be sprinkled over the bed rather than pouring the water. Watering should be stopped before the harvest of vermicompost. And next one, we are going to we are going to see about harvesting vermicompost. You can collect this vermicompost in tub method or in different types of methods. If we are going to see about tub method, the casting formed on the top layer are collected periodically. The election may be carried out in a week, once in a week. With hand, the casting will be scooped out and put in a shady place as heap-like structure. After that, the harvesting of casting should be limited up to the earthworm presence on the top layer. This periodical harvesting is necessary for free flow and retain the compost quality. After that or otherwise, the finishing compost get compacted with watering is done. Okay, so that in small bed type of vermicomposting method, periodical harvesting is not required since the height of the waste material heaped is around only 1 foot. The produced vermicompost will be harvested after the process is over. And next, moving to harvesting earthworms. After the vermicompost production, the earthworms present in the tub or small bed may be harvested by trapping method. In the vermi bed, before harvesting the compost, small fresh dung, here we are going to take some fresh cow dung balls. We are going to prepare the cow dung balls and we are going to insert inside the vermi bed in 5 or 6 places. Okay, in different places we are going to place this wet cow dung balls, so that after 24 hours the cow dung ball is removed. The how it will happen means that earthworms will be adhered to that cow dung ball within that some period of time. Then we are going to remove that cow dung balls outside and we are going to keep that in bucket of water, so that the earthworms will get separated from the balls. The collected worms will be used for next batch of composting. Worms harvested is usually carried out in order to sell the worms rather than to start new worm beds. We are going to sell these vermi worms which we have collected before. Expanding the operation or new beds can be accomplished by splitting the bed, that is removing a portion of bed to start a new one and replacing the material with a new bedding material and feed. When worms are sold, however, they are usually separated, weighed and then transported in a relatively sterile medium such as peat moss. To accomplish this, the worms must first be separated from the bedding and vermicompost. There are 3 different basic categories of methods used by growers to harvest worms. Of that, manual migration and mechanical methods will be mostly used in this harvesting the earthworms. Which were the methods used mostly is manual method, migration method and mechanical method. Okay, this is about vermicompost production technology. Now we are going to see about nutritive value of vermicompost. It contains 9.5% to 17.998% of organic carbon and 1.5 to 5% of nitrogen, and phosphorus is about 0.1 to 0.30% of phosphorus, and potassium is about 0.15% to 0.56%. Repeating again, it contains vermicompost contains about 9.5 to 17.98% of organic carbon, 0.5 to 1.50% of nitrogen, and 0.1 to 0.30% of phosphorus, and 0.15 to 0.56% of potassium. What were the advantages of vermicompost? If you see the vermicompost, it will increase or rich in all essential plant nutrients. Okay, it provides excellent effect on overall plant growth, increases the growth of new plant crops, okay, or the shoots or leaves, and improves the quality and shelf life of the produce. It increases the vermicompost is free flowing, easy to apply, handle and store, and does not have bad odor. Okay, this vermicompost will not have any of the bad odor. We can easily handle and we can apply in the field. It improves the soil structure, texture, aeration and water holding capacity and prevents soil erosion. Not only that, vermicompost is rich in beneficial microflora such as fixers of potassium solubilizers, cellulose decomposing microflora, etc., in addition to improve soil environment. Okay, these are rich in or beneficial to microflora such as fixers and P solubilizers, cellulose decomposing microflora. Okay, vermicompost contains earthworm cocoons and increase the population and activity of earthworm in the soil. Okay, here vermicompost contain earthworm cocoons and increase the population and activity of earthworm in the soil. It neutralizes the soil protection. Here we have completed the organic sources of manures, organic manures, and its sources. Okay, I hope you have understood this topic about FIM, compost, green manures, and what is meant by organic, bulky organic manures and concentrated organic manures, vermicompost, poultry manures, and these were the all sources of organic manures. Thank you, dear students. Now I am going to put some questions from the today's topic, and also if you are having any doubts or any queries, you can clear that by commenting in the comment section so that I will clear the doubts. Here is the first question for you. Mention names of earthworms that are used in vermicompost preparation. Mention the earthworm names that are mostly preferable for preparing the vermicompost preparation. Okay. Second question. Mention the nutrient content of vermicompost. Mention the nutrient content of vermicompost. Mention some preparation materials or sources of vermicompost. Mention some sources of vermicompost. And next question. Define bulky organic manure. Define bulky organic manure. Give some examples of bulky organic manures. Next question. Give some examples of bulky organic manures. Next question. What is the nutrient content of farmyard manure? What was the nutrient content of farmyard manure? Next question. How much amount of farmyard manure will be available for the first crop? How much amount of NPK will be available for the first crop after applying FIM? Okay. Thank you, students.